I'm sure you would all agree that marketing has been through a digital transformation more than any other department in recent years. If we look at recent research, people who've implemented marketing technology say that 40% of people are saying it hasn't been good. Then we have 52% of people going, well, it's good in parts, and only 8% of people are saying it's gone very well. It's kind of shocking, really, isn't it? And there's some sessions today talking about technology. So why do you think that is? When we look at the top 3 challenges, it's really about integrating data across different systems. So you've got your marketing automation, you've got your CRM, and all the other things you have in your tech stack. But more importantly, it's about getting the people to use those systems. Now, if you're in marketing, how many times do you ask sales to fill in Salesforce or whatever CRM system they're using? And if people aren't inputting the data, how are you ever going to get return on investment? So really, it's not the car you're driving, it's the people driving it. So it's not the technology that's the issue, because we should all know that technology is only an enabler of our people and the way that they choose to work. And the way that they choose to work is key, because people don't want to work the way that technology dictates that they should work. You should understand how your people best work, put together your requirements, and buy the technology that enables them to do that, or at least customize it to do that. So we look a bit more research here. This is taken from companies who see themselves as being extremely or very efficient at using Martech. The difference between people at low and high performing is that the high performing people, and see themselves as high performing teams, are getting 2 to 3 times more performance in areas of collaboration, insight and productivity. Why? Because the sales team's working together, the marketing team's working together. There's just more people and better process. So it's not the technology. We're not here today to talk about statistics, showing you donuts, bars, or this table full of Smarties. And I'm certainly not condoning taking Smarties and driving a fast car. Don't do that. But I think the first step you need to take is for marketing to get its house in order. Too many meetings start off where sales and marketing are trying to work together, and sales are just pointing at marketing saying your leads are crap, etc. So the first thing you need to do is try and integrate marketing. Now, marketing these days is very much siloed. You've got your comms, PR, digital, events management, all the different areas that have become so specialized that we don't even talk to each other within our own departments. And then we're trying to integrate with sales, and they're just looking at us going, I don't know what you guys are up to, really. So before you go for the stakeholder alignment, think about how to fix yourself. And the other thing to think about, actually implementing technology does involve change management, and people don't like to change. And they certainly don't like big, scary step changes. So the thing to think about is how can you do incremental changes and not think of it as a destination, but a journey. How do we continuously improve, continuously innovate, and continuously change? And then it's almost like changing it without people noticing. And then before you know it, a year goes past and they're working completely different than they did the year before. Now, in his book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, Horowitz talks about a time where his company had weeks to release a product. If it wasn't released on time at their big event, their customers wouldn't buy it, their cash flow would have made the company go bankrupt. So most people find out their company goes bankrupt when people come in with these cardboard boxes. But he said, no, I'm going to call all of my people to a hotel, to a lovely ballroom, and do an announcement to the entire company to tell them this company has got weeks to go. Now, he implored his employees to work every day and every hour possible to turn the company around. And some people left because they thought, I'm not staying around here, this company's going to go bust. But the ones that stayed, and it was many that stayed, they did turn this company around, and it was sold to HP, one of the biggest software companies in the world. So if you haven't read that book, it's an amazing book on how a CEO can transform a company and grow it. Now, I'm sure you have experienced change and been through change yourselves, or been leaders of that change. But for myself, I went through a personal experience in a company once where I went through 3 CEOs, 3 CMOs, and 3 chiefs of sales in a 3.5-year period. Okay? That sounds like some crazy stuff. I actually really enjoyed it, and you'll understand why in a minute. So it was a venture-backed company. And what happened was that they were sold to another venture capitalist, so we had new people on the board because the board was mostly made up of investors. And they're coming along asking questions about how does this company work, and how do you measure marketing. Now, it was around this time that the second CMO, so my job was looking after demand and operations, so marketing operations and sales operations. So my second boss comes along and says, right, we're going to implement HubSpot. And just didn't, he's new in the business, and he said he just loved HubSpot. There was no logic behind this is what's right for our business. Marketo was already in place. It was just used a very expensive batch blasting email, and it wasn't even plugged into the CRM, which was Dynamics. So what happened was that the CMO went to IT and the chief of sales and said, right, we're implementing this new system, HubSpot. It doesn't work with Dynamics, so we're also going to rip out your CRM and put in Salesforce.com. So then the second chief of sales said, yeah, I'm up to that. I've always used Salesforce.com. That's fine. So then IT goes off and says, right, okay, we've got this big transformation project. We've got to rip these systems out. And so they took out Dynamics, put in Salesforce, bought Salesforce.com. Then he went to the CMO and said, right, we've got this new system. How would you like it set up? The CMO says, I work in marketing. Go ask the head of sales. So the head of IT goes to sales and says, how do I implement this? He said, look, I've just started here. I'm losing headcount. We're not hitting our quarterly numbers. I'm too busy. Goes to sales operations. Sales operations go, we're hiring people like crazy. We're trying to enable them, get them trained up. So IT is just thinking, well, what do we do? Well, I work in IT. I've got a deadline. What I'm going to do is take exactly the implementation of Dynamics and repeat it in Salesforce.com. Even though no one liked the way the old system worked, because he had no other choice. There's no interface for the business, and the business wasn't interested. So meanwhile, the CMO is ticking along nicely with HubSpot, cloud-based solution, doesn't involve IT, until they have to start integrating these things together. So time passes, the third CMO comes along, and around about the same time, we acquired a company the same size as us. So we spent years getting this all fixed, and then we bought another company and said, right, let's merge the two together. And guess what? They had Marketo. So we think, right, okay, we need to do an enterprise assessment here. We probably need another solution. So we looked at Marketo, Eloqua. We also looked at Pardot because it's part of Salesforce. We went through all these exercises, and it came down to, actually, it's going to be really expensive to move over to another system. So let's just stick with what we've got. Now, what we didn't know at the time is the company was looking to be bought by another company. And guess what? They had Marketo. So this is the madness that happens in a company when you're trying to implement technology and not involving people. But I'm not going to talk about all depressing stories today, because what I want to talk about is a particular customer who's actually won an award for sales and marketing alignment. That's by getting sales and marketing to work together about a very data-driven growth strategy to help them get double-digit growth. Now, this case study is really about how to get more from your marketing with less money. Because what we started to do in our first year, when I said about getting your house in order, sales were too busy to, marketing is rubbish because the history of marketing wasn't very well with sales. So we had to build a relationship. So we focused on getting our house in order, and we increased marketing source revenue by 100% after just 1 year. Now, admittedly, the revenue from the year before and the years before was very small. So doubling a small amount isn't that great. But what we essentially did was only increase the sales accepted leads by 50%. Now, what does that mean? It means we're giving them less quantity but more quality. So we didn't just double the number of leads going to sales because they were saying that they were crap. So we sat down with them and worked out, well, why are they crap and what leads do you want? And this led to a reduction in marketing spend, which obviously increases return on investment. Now, when people say, does marketing create value? If you say, well, we actually can demonstrate 3.5 million increase in marketing source revenue. Okay? Now, I wasn't happy with that number because it wasn't much of a percentage of the overall revenue of the business. But what happened was that the CEO and the CFO and the board saw actually marketing is getting its act together. If we could give them more budget and more money, I think they can generate more revenue. So this is the first step that you need to do. So what I want to talk about today is a methodology that I've created working with hundreds of different companies on a very evidence-based approach. I'll talk about it in the particular context of CA, technologies, and their automation division, and then leave you with a more flexible approach that can work for your companies too. So firstly, what we want to do as CA is get all the customer-facing people to work together and actually understand that we're all trying to grow this business at double-digit growth. And actually, we are not trying to integrate with each other for the sake of it. We're trying to do that to have this joined up customer journey. Now, Playbooks is a mixture of strategy, light process, and light governance. Nobody likes process. Process sounds horrible. It's like you're forced to do something. But if there was a football pitch with no lines on it, what are you going to do? Run around in circles. There needs to be some kind of guardrails. And the governance is about having sales and marketing and other teams to work together to ensure that they have accountability for what they're doing and hold each other accountable too. And being productive is about actually, what are we producing from our efforts? So it's looking at the goals and objectives, are we achieving them? And then only then do you start to look at the Martech, the CRM, marketing automation and BI, because that is supporting your people and the plays that you're putting in place. So let me bring this to life. Let's look at people in more detail at CA. What they realized was that their culture was very much process orientated. And they also noticed that the company had multiple cultures based on different countries. So it was originally an Austrian country, liked to follow process. Then they acquired an American company that really didn't like following process, but the head office did. And then the UK office was built up, and then they acquired a French company. And so there was these country cultures, and then the leadership in these companies was different as well. So that created these different cultures. And so when we get everyone to sit down together, the boards were working on this, and from the bottom up, everyone was looking at what is our culture today, what would we like it to be? And everyone agreed that they wanted to have a productivity-based culture, not process. So why do you follow a process? What's the point of it? You want an outcome, whether that's revenue, whether that's profit, whether that's lifetime value. So then we start to look at the capabilities of the team, the people that we had, and specifically with marketing, we noticed that certain regions were better at certain things. So there was a guy in the US who was really good at marketing automation. So they had the best nurture campaigns. And there was someone in the UK who was really good at social. So they were really good at the social side. So what we did was take those specialist people that were in region, promote them up to a virtual global team, and said, right, you're now going to work your knowledge to share amongst all the countries globally and become this central demand center that's going to generate leads for everyone. And that also creates economies of scale when you're working with vendors to get leads, and so it's very common. But what we then did was that the field marketing people were generally kind of events marketing. That's why they had to be in country, because you have to be there physically at events. So they weren't all classically marketing trained, and they certainly weren't business trained. So what we started to do was to train these marketing people to be more business focused and understand, actually, I need to partner with sales and services because there is this customer journey, and we're only looking after the top of the funnel. We want to make sure the whole thing flows through. And to do that, we helped them with giving them analytics and actionable information, and taught them how to do a workshop with sales and services to show them what campaigns that we're planning to do in the next quarter. So historically, it would be marketing would turn up and get a 30-minute presentation in the quarterly sales kickoff. This is what I did last quarter. This is what I'm planning to do next quarter. Any questions? No, thank you very much. But we actually had special regular interlock meetings every month that were 2 hours long. Trying to get these people in a room for 2 hours was really difficult. But once we got them in there for 2 hours, the meeting went on for 2.5 hours. When these salespeople started to drill down onto the data that was in our CRM and marketing automation platform, they could see the power, down to the level of if marketing said they were going to generate this much revenue from this many leads, because we reverse engineered the entire pipeline, if an event is cancelled or a campaign doesn't go, you're going to have to replace it with something because you put your stake in the ground and said you're going to do this. And likewise, if you do a campaign and then you see that the leads are sitting in the system and sales aren't following up, you hold them accountable to say, why hasn't this happened? And I've seen sales directors pick up the phone, find out it's actually one salesperson who hasn't followed up his leads, call that person there and then and go, what the bloody hell are you doing? Shout and scream at them. That person doesn't do it again. And you want to be the person doing that, but sales don't listen to you, they listen to their manager. So it's creating this partnership, and we call them revenue teams and these interlocks. And with that, you start to build trust between sales and marketing. And with that trust, sales will then start to give back leads that they say, do you know what, I met these people, I don't think it's going to happen for another year. What was typically happening is they would just keep it in the CRM and then call them back in a year's time. And marketing thought that they were working it. They would then give it back and go, actually, can you nurture these people? And when they start to look like they're buying again, then bring it back to me. So you start to create this trust. So when we look at the playbooks, what we're talking about here is looking at this customer journey, or if you're looking at it internally, it's that lead to revenue journey. We started to look at product market fit because we wanted to start doing company-wide campaigns. As I said, this company was acting like very different cultures and was very siloed due to acquisitions over time. We said, right, how are we going to get everyone to work on the same campaigns? So we chose 6 plays, and we called them plays and called them go-to-market campaigns because they weren't marketing campaigns. Marketing was responsible for the execution, marketing was responsible for coordinating people, but every single person in the company who had knowledge around the products, the markets and the solutions worked on these campaigns, and we made sure that they helped train the salespeople. Because an example of one area that we said, actually, we're used to selling to IT people, why don't we sell to the finance department? And selling to the CFO is very different to the CIO, so that takes a lot of training. So that's the sales enablement side. And having a shared language between sales and marketing and that you can talk to with the customer. And working with IT on the automation and the CRM, we had to naturally work with them in an agile approach because that's the way that IT works. You have your backlog, you have your requests, you have your meetings, you say, right, what's the priority? 2-week sprints. So we start to introduce that into marketing, working with the sales team. Say, how can we get these campaigns up and running within 2 weeks? So they decide to do a campaign. 2 weeks later, say the first email goes out or the first advert goes out. And then you see what happens, and then 2 weeks later, the next part of the nurture process starts. So you don't try and create the entire nurture track in one go. You get started, get instant feedback, talk to the customers and prospects and the salespeople, say, how can we improve this campaign? And that takes a lot of integration with the back office. So working with finance so we can measure the revenue, but also working with HR because we needed to hire more people. So the final part on the 3 Ps is actually understanding how do you be productive. There's a lot of talk about performance marketing. Now the problem with performance is that you can be in a sport and perform well but still lose. So performance is about you gave it your best, whereas productivity is about the outcome that you achieve. So we started with the board looking at KPIs. They wanted to promote to the investors what were the main things in their business that we were looking at that were leading indicators to what we're trying to achieve, the revenue and the profitability. And then with the individuals in the business, we had business management objectives, and we decided to move over to OKRs, which are objectives and key results. The main difference between the two is that OKRs has visibility to everybody in the business. So people in different departments go, actually, we're trying to achieve the same goal here. You're doing it from a marketing point of view, I'm doing it from, why don't we team up on this? And also you can hold each other accountable and you can see how close you are to achieving that target. And it also encourages you to overachieve because 80% is what you should achieve. So you start to think about, well, could I do 20% more? So you can get your bonus or your promotion at 80%, but you set your target at this 100. So there's that little bit extra. So it's just that little twist that makes a difference. Then when sales start to see that marketing are trying really hard, that they've created that 3.5 million, and then this year they want to create 7 million, they're going to go, okay, you guys are trying really hard here, how can I help? Well, can you start to use the CRM system? That would be a good place to start. Then we start to look at integrating that with the marketing automation. We had a cross-company project management platform because we weren't working in our silos anymore. We were working on cross-department projects to get these go-to-market campaigns out, making sure everyone works together. Now, real-time analytics is really important to me because I can't stand it when you go to meetings and people are bringing spreadsheets and saying, my numbers aren't the same as your numbers. And it's just, I downloaded mine last night. Well, I downloaded mine, just stop it. It's 2018, it's the 21st century. If you can't get your sales and marketing people and your company looking at a single dashboard that's got live data, you're doing something terribly wrong. You know, get that sorted because that's going to help you make those quick decisions and actually get a subset of that you can show to the board. And once you start having this kind of infrastructure and these kind of relationships between different people, that's when you're going to get more budget and that's when you can get more creative and do more fun stuff. So I told you what happened after the first year. After a 4-year journey, we moved from 17% pipeline to over 60% marketing source pipeline. When you get to this stage, what happens is that sales stop asking, where's the leads, where's the leads, where's the leads? They start to get asked different questions like, okay, you're bringing me loads of leads. How can you help me get these further down the funnel? So the relationship starts to change. And so this is a brief summary of the presentation, of the case study. If you want to hear Dr. Chris Borman's CMO, there's a link here and he's on Bright Talk and it's a 45-minute presentation. So what you start to see, that you start off with activity generation. This is a marketing department that when you say what you're working on, they say, well, I've done 5 email shots and went to 3 events. Okay, that's just activity. What was the outcome? Where's your productivity? Lead generation, they come back from an event with a goldfish bowl with 100 business cards and go, look, I've got 100 leads. They're not leads. They're good contacts that's going to grow your database. But when you start to look at that and say, actually, demand generation marketing teams, they're looking at how do you score leads and when does a lead get passed on to the sales team. And actually, that's when sales, and so don't do this on your own. Don't guess when a lead is going to be sales ready. Work with your sales teams to say, when do you want this lead? And do a workshop with them. And if it doesn't, and let them know in the workshop that it's not going to be right first time. And they have to keep giving feedback and it's going to get better and better. This is when you start to actually have more dialogue with sales and then you start having these interlock meetings. And what happens then is that marketing then starts to become comfortable saying, actually, I trust these salespeople are following our process and we can hold them accountable because we've got these analytics and we know what's going on. We regularly meet up. Now, there's a lot of talk in the industry about revenue marketing. If you're here or here, that's quite a way off. So don't be bought into the noise out there of all the fake news of people saying you need to do revenue marketing. And in fact, revenue marketing isn't the overall goal. Because many companies now who get to this stage, they have a lot of historical data. And with this historical data, you can start to look and say, actually, we've just got this lead in from this job title in this industry in this size company. We've seen some of these leads before historically, and I predict they're going to do the same thing. They're going to buy something once, very small, spend a long time and never buy anything again. So do you know what? We're not going to pass that lead on to sales. And likewise, when you're getting to 60% marketing source pipeline and sales are saying, how can you help us? You can start to look at customers that are churning, customers that leave you, and look at patterns. They make customer support calls and complaints, and whatever data you have, you can start to create an algorithm to predict which customers are going to churn in the next year. And guess what? You can do some account-based marketing to those accounts and say, well, actually, these ones we want to keep, these ones we're not fussed if they churn. And that is when you have true sales and marketing alignment, when you can work on that area. And that is what is value generation, because it's looking at customer lifetime value, not just revenue. So you might say, this case study is great, Adrian, but that's one company. But I've taken a value-based approach, worked with hundreds of companies, and you can tailor a B2B value matrix on what is important to your company, plot where you are today, and where you want to be tomorrow, next month, next year, the year after, and prioritize and sit down with sales and sit down with management and say, hey, you all say you want marketing to be better. Well, this is where we are today. Where can we get to? And if they say, all right, I want you all across the bottom here. By the way, no one has reached level 4 across the bottom. No one I've ever met. I challenge you to find someone who has. So if your board says do that, just go, okay, well, give me £10 million budget. It's not realistic. You've got to look at the resources you have. So what I want to leave you with today is to think about the people, the playbooks, and the productivity. I've got a nice credit-sized card you can leave in your wallet. So next time you're thinking about how am I going to change marketing, it's going to be in your wallet. And although marketing has transformed so much digitally, don't get too hung up on the technology, because it's not the technology that it needs to do the work. It's the people and the playbooks that you need to put together. Thank you very much.